Hello, everybody. This is AB Young Rome. Welcome to another episode of Food for Thought. Got a few downloads and listens recently from across Europe and the States, which was really nice. Please check out my YouTube page, AB Young Rome. So I've uploaded the previous episode to YouTube and added some thumbnails to it. Better quality will be coming out on that. Obviously, first video, so bear with us. So this episode is going to be the top 10 quarantine television shows, quarantine TV shows, meaning what can you watch, in my opinion. That's another thing, actually. A quick disclaimer is that these views are my own. So please take that into consideration. It's my personal opinion, my views, my thoughts, my reasoning, etc. So it's not factual information, it's purely subjective, so please bear that in mind. So I'm going to name my top 10 shows. These, I would personally give these shows a minimum of 9 out of 10. With television shows, me personally, I believe you have to be gripped to watch it. You have to be on the edge of your seat, willing to binge the whole series, or wanting to. Understandably, you can't sometimes, obviously weekly episodes, etc. But you need to be absolutely gripped on the edge of your seat for me to watch a television series. That's why, like I said, it is quite subjective. There's an absolute, I'd say, dozens of shows that haven't made the list, and probably an even bigger list of shows that I actually have not seen. An absolute slew of shows that I haven't seen, so I'm talking dozens. So for example, some ones that I haven't seen that I've just made a quick note on: Chernobyl, Firefly, Fargo, Dragon Ball Z. I've not seen The Last Dance, which is a new series on Netflix. Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I want to get to. House of Cards, Fleabag, Westworld, X-Files, some fan favourite ones. There's a lot of missed out ones, which I'm going to come to before I name my number one. I like to do that routine there. Number 11, 12, 13, etc. But so they are honourable mentions. But the top 10, which I want to get to, I want to make this episode a little bit shorter so it's easier for people to listen to. Because literally, if this will be a tip or a guide for people who are wanting to binge shows, people who need entertainment, maybe people who are working from home, need something to have on the background, something to help pass the time with, something if they want to start some of these shows, my opinion, etc. So this is generally to help people who would want to get into a TV show but don't know where to start. So like I said, the ones I've said before, I have ones that I've missed or I've not got around to yet. There are several, like I said, there are dozens more. So I'm going to start with number 10 on the list. My number 10 in my top 10 quarantine shows. Meaning, again, just to recategorize, meaning shows that you can binge, meaning shows that you must see, meaning these are my favourite TV shows. Not necessarily the best, but they are my favourite, meaning that I can watch any episode at any time and I'm locked in for the full episode. And then I may even continue to watch a few episodes from there. I believe all of these are actually on television. Actually, no, that's not true. Currently on repeat on some channels or downloadable off certain apps, etc. But yeah, I believe it's a good list. It's my list. I do tend to warm to sci-fi, fantasy type shows or science fiction shows and comedy. So I think all of the ones on my list are science fiction or comedy, thinking about it. So I mean, we'll see. I'll get to it. So I just thought of a couple more comedy shows that I've never seen or I've not watched enough of. Seinfeld, Cheers, Frasier, ones like that. So none of them on the list. I've gone for my personal favourite, ones that I've grown up on, ones that appeal to me the most. Okay, anyway, that's 5 minutes of me rambling. We'll get to the number 10 on the list. So number 10 is one of the more recent shows that I've watched. Is number 10 is Black Mirror. Black Mirror. I understand it has been on for years. I never got around to it. Was never particularly interested in it. As the creator, the writer of the show, the showrunner, is he is a British political satire writer, often on late night news shows, late night talk shows, interviewing politicians, interviewing newspaper editors. Not the most interesting person. Yeah, he seems a bit funny on these talk shows, but never would I ever give him the second thought if he could write such a dynamic, interesting, futuristic, crazy show like Black Mirror. Black Mirror is so intense where I personally work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5-ish. So I had to save the episodes for weekends because they were so intense, edge of my seat, absolutely locked in. Even it's in English, of course, but I had to have the subtitles on because I didn't want to miss. Or if you do miss any of the writing, the material, you may not understand the episode in full. And then afterwards, I would review or watch kind of podcast or kind of videos on YouTube basically about each episode, what they mean, the other tie-ins, what they're trying to achieve, other opinions, things like that. So such an ingenious show where it's some are thriller episodes, some are action ones. They don't link on to each other, and it's an anthology series, of course. Absolutely gripping, one of the best shows I have ever seen, and I cannot wait to rewatch it again. I'm waiting for a bit of time, so I probably finished it the last episode about 6 months ago, so I binged it all in probably 2 weeks, I'd say. 2 months. But yes, I cannot wait to watch this again. So that if I was actually to give a recommendation, probably on my list would probably be that one, even though it's number 10, because in terms of rewatchability, I've had more time with some of the later ones on the list. But in terms of shock value of how good it is, and the standard and the production quality and the writing and the ingenuity of it, absolutely Black Mirror makes my top 10 list, and no doubt will go higher throughout the years. Okay, so that's number 10. So number 9, we're also going for quite a newer one that I've seen, and that is Stranger Things. So this isn't the last time I'm going to say this. So I'm a hardcore Star Wars fan, unashamedly and proudly. Every single episode of Stranger Things has multiple Star Wars tie-ins in. They will literally talk about the characters, but they'll often do themes. They'll often have props in. So if anyone isn't aware of Stranger Things, sci-fi action series based on a group of, in the first season, I don't remember how old they are, to be honest with you. I want to say 12, 13. Could be a little bit older. By the end of the third season, I think they're about 18-ish, so roughly. So yes, high school genre. It has it's very, very respectful of other 80s properties. So it's set in the 80s. So it's in that same kind of, it has that Back to the Future style kind of gold dust around it, where it's a high school kind of a teen, one of these teen movies. It can be romantic comedy, can be pure action and sci-fi, where there's these kind of without spoiling anything, there's a parallel universe that happens in a town for a certain reason. It's after a certain person, and there's another nature through wars and things like that. So absolutely riveting show to watch. The characters, the mother and father of the whole series, not literally, but there's two main leads, which are it's Winona Ryder and David Harper, I believe his name is. So yeah, these guys are awesome. The characters are awesome. Like I said, they're so funny. References so many 80s properties and movies and stuff. So definitely. I never saw it before. It's probably Netflix's most popular ever show, I want to say. So I was late to it, but I was so glad I watched it. But yeah, I think it's in, personally, I would say the first season's the best season, and the second and the third. But yeah, 4 seasons should be out soon. So yeah, looking forward to that. So number 8, Star Wars Rebels / the Clone Wars. So these are made both at Lucasfilm, both with a showrunner in Dave Filoni and George Lucas in terms of the Clone Wars. So they're very similar. They have multiple character tie-ins. These characters also tie into the movies. There are some of the kind of legacy and original trilogy characters in a lot of these shows, and also from the prequels. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, if you have seen the Star Wars movies and want to get into the deeper canon, back catalogue, history, universe, galaxy, however you want to say, of Star Wars, if you want to know the wider depth of it, and it is absolutely huge. We're talking books, video games, comics, TV shows. If you want to start getting into the extended universe of Star Wars, you must watch Clone Wars and Rebels. That is the way in. From there, it will refer you to books, like I said, magazines, games, etc. But you must watch these to get an enhanced opinion and view and guidance on the property. Okay, so that's just my tip. As a, like I said, hardcore Star Wars fan, I found it absolutely enthralling and electric, some of it. But again, that's my opinion. Other people won't say that. For me, it's probably, I mean, yeah, it's probably the greatest animation ever made, combined. But there's one more that maybe has something to say about that, but maybe further down the list. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is in terms of the expanding the universe and galaxy, and other characters, side characters, lesser characters, and enhancing the movies, absolutely. Star Wars Rebels / Clone Wars are a necessity if you are a Star Wars fan. Next one on the list, number 7, and that's actually Star Trek. Okay, so Star Trek is, I haven't put an actual series on it though. I would say it's a mix between the original series and the Next Generation. I personally, due to my age, initially watched the Next Generation, and that's how I actually got into Star Wars. I would see odd episodes on television, and I was always interested in the world. This is before any movies, before the original trilogy. The original series, the original movies as well. I seen kind of clips and highlights, and I was always interested in it. Why does this character look like this? Why does this character speak like this? The language that they use, the writing, the foresight, and how inventive and creative, how they thought the kind of world, an idealistic world should be, and other races, other cultures. I mean, it's all integrated in this show. It's so ingenious. But I initially came to it via the Next Generation. Then I watched the movies, and I haven't seen the full original series kind of run, but I've seen all the movies, and yeah, I mean, the best parts of Star Trek is when it is action plus sci-fi, I want to say. Also, the best parts of Star Trek are the emotional moments, particularly for me, for example, with the original trilogy characters, the legacy characters, having the emotional moments in the motion picture in Star Trek 2, Star Trek 3, Star Trek 4, Star Trek 6, it does tie in, because you've had such long kind of time with them, through the series, through the history, through the culture. It does hit you with them as well. The even some of the lesser light Star Trek movies, it enhances them, because after watching the Next Generation for so many seasons, I think it's 7 seasons, 25 episodes a season, then watching the movies and having the legacy characters in some of these movies as well, and yeah, it's really emotional, and a solidly ranked on the list. So absolutely love Star Trek. So that's number 7. Number 6. Okay, I did, out of respect, I put it on the list. Number 6 on my list is Game of Thrones. When it was on, it was the favourite show I have ever seen. The care that went into the show, making the show, is breathtaking. the look of it, the writing, the set designs, the characters, the costumes, the world that they build and live in, and language that they use. I mean, this is the biggest show in the world for when it was on, undisputed. And it just kind of kicked off before kind of Netflix came along. So definitely worth a binge. However, this may have ranked higher. It may have ranked in my top 5, but the last season that came out a year ago is unfortunately, I think it's quite awful. I think it's really, really bad. It's let the rewatchability down for me. Knowing that's how the series ends. There's going to be no spoilers in this. If you haven't gathered this already, I haven't spoiled any series so far, and I won't do for the rest of the list. But yeah, the last season and the last few episodes were really, really, really disappointing. I was actually upset watching it. So yeah, it would have ranked higher, but I don't think it's definitely the first kind of 4 seasons plus 5 and 6, absolutely electric, must see television. But the last one is borderline awful, rushed, spoilt. So, for example, since I've last watched the last time I watched the last episode, which was a year ago, I've not touched another episode. I don't want to watch it again, knowing that's how it ends up. But I'm sure I will at some point. Like I said, it's a thrilling ride, so definitely recommended. But yeah, for me personally, last season kind of spoiled it a bit. Anyway, rant over. Number 5. Okay, we're going to move on. Number 5 on this list is the last animation on this list. Okay, and that is Batman, the animated series. Grew up on this, so as I don't remember how old I was when I watched it. I want to say boy, but this was the first kind of darkest, most serious animation that I've ever seen. The artistry in this, the themes in it. This was my favourite animation television show growing up. It built the world, the Batman world, and it literally brought the comic book to life. I was playing the video games. I was absolutely reading comic books, DC, Marvel, etc. But this enhanced the character for me. The themes, the characters, the voices, the locations, the villains, the music, absolutely riveting. Even now, it still holds up. The movies as well, Mask of the Phantasm, etc. I kind of include all that because they're all like television movies, but absolutely fantastic series and definitely recommended. Number 4. Okay, so it might be a little bit high for some people, but number 4 on my list with must-watch TV shows, quarantine shows, is Friends. Is Friends? Yeah, absolutely grown up on Friends. So throughout my kind of teens, it was on. I still watch it to this day. Anytime it's on, and I kind of finish watching something else, and I'm waiting maybe or I need a 20-minute break or half an hour break, or I'm just doing something else, or I need something on in the background, I whack a Friends episode on because it's literally on repeat on so many UK channels. I just literally watch it on, and I find it hilarious, and I'll leave it on maybe for an hour and a half in the background. Particularly my favourite character personally is Chandler, but yeah, there's literally, like, I've rotated that so many times between every single of the main 6 characters, but currently right now is yeah, sorry, I meant Ross. Ross is definitely my favourite, but having looked, yeah, I mean, it absolutely holds up. I mean, the guest appearances, the guest stars, etc. But yeah, that's number 4. Number 3, we're going to go to another comedy. I've tried to keep it an international list. I don't want to have too many UK options on there, but the number 3 is a UK show which has got international acclaim, and it's The Office. The Office. I mean, probably at the time, until I watched number 2 on my list, until I watched that, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Ricky Gervais, Stephen Merchant co-wrote this. Ricky Gervais starring, of course. The interaction, the writing, the humour, um, absolutely ingenious. Funniest thing for in my entire life up until that point. For years, watched it on repeat. I mean, there's only a handful of episodes. I think there's 2 seasons, 6 episodes a season, and a Christmas special. I want to say there might be more. I think they've done a couple of movies after that, but not with the full main cast. Full main cast is 2 seasons plus the Christmas special. I don't know off by heart, but I believe that's how it is. But it's absolutely ingenious. Obviously, they've remade it into the American Office, which I've seen a few episodes. Seems quite funny. I've never watched it all from the start. But yeah, absolutely ingenious show. I started their careers, which are still thriving to this day. Number two on my list, the funniest television show, in my opinion, of all time, and that I've seen. My favourite comedy character. It's specifically a UK show. I understand in the States people have seen it if they're interested in the actor who stars in it. But yes, no, it's definitely I've never laughed so hard and so long at this character. The actual show is called I'm Alan Partridge. Okay, I'm Alan Partridge. So he has done multiple kind of shows, but this was the biggest show that this, obviously played by Steve Coogan, but this was the biggest show where it launched him and it launched the character. He's had several other television shows with this character, but this was it launched him. And again, I think it's 2 seasons, 6 episodes a season, and then from there you can watch the other series. I'm Knowing Me, Knowing You, which is a few episodes, and Mid Morning Matters, and the movie as well. But like I said, the funniest thing, the wit, absolute wit of it, as this has been BBC presenter who has been dropped by the BBC, and he's still trying to make it by trying to get auditions, trying to get other work, trying to fall in love, and he's just stuck in his ways. And at the time, I think Steve Coogan was in his mid-30s trying to play a mid-50-year-old or 50-year-old, and now he's actually reached that age. So it's very surreal. The whole show is, and the other characters and his friends and his PA and all. I can cry now watching it. It's that funny. But yeah, it's definitely, even if you're not from the UK, I think that you can still get an appeal to that. You still get a laugh out of it. Awesome show. Okay, so before I get number one, a quick run through of some series that if I'm making the best all time list, they might feature some of them. A lot of them would, but these are my personal favourites, ones that I can put on any time, binge them, watch from multiple episodes without, watch it from the restart, etc. Anyway, some honourable mentions. I'll quickly run through. The Mandalorian, which I've seen quite recently. Deadwood. Slightly overrated, Deadwood, if I'm being perfectly honest. Mindhunter, again, another one that's overrated. I find quite a little bit dull, actually. The Wire. Yeah, it's good. Again, falls on the overrated side. Sopranos. Hot take, but again, that's another one I found quite overrated. I thought it was a long, drawn out gangster movie. That's what I felt, and I was actually quite bored with it. 10 seasons as well. I mean, it's a lot to get through. None of these. This list doesn't contain any David Attenborough or nature documentaries such as Planet Earth, Blue Planet, Life, Africa. I mean, I could do a top 10 of them. So I believe they will be the number one in reality. So I didn't want to clog it up with them. They're kind of separate. Band of Brothers is really good. True Detective season 1, some of the best television I've ever seen. When They See Us, I couldn't sleep at night after I first seen that. Absolutely gripping television. Narcos I've not seen. Peaky Blinders I've not seen. The X-Men and Spider-Man television shows, again, enhance the Marvel universe. Undisputed number one on the list is Lost. L-O-S-T. Lost. Okay. Favourite television show of all time. It literally has everything. Okay, it has a huge science fiction element to it, sci-fi fantasy. It has action. It has drama. It has comedy. It has family relatability. It has people from all over the world, multicultural and diverse cast. As Star Trek did, which I didn't mention. But yeah, the twists and turns and the themes and the over whole thing related to sci-fi and the absolute ingenious of it. Written by, of course, Damon Lindelof and pilot directed by J.J. Abrams. I was hooked in from the start. First episode, where there's a twist at the end where you see someone's father who shouldn't be there on the island. Like, I was in from there. I wanted every single episode with the twist and turn. Every single episode going left, right, forward, back. You want to know what happens. It literally makes you binge it. It does get a little bit stick, particularly that I think there's 6 seasons. The longer it got, the more out there it gets. After kind of season 3, it gets really out there. But I personally love it because it's so smart and it's got so many tie-ins and you get some answers. Particularly in the last season, a lot of people weren't happy with the answers that they did get in series 7. But me personally, I absolutely loved the ending. Loved it. I understand though, however, with that, I do understand if people do not like the ending of Lost. But no, I find it is a little bit subjective, but I was gripped from season. The characters mainly the characters. The lead character, Matthew Fox, Jack, one of my favorite all-time characters actually, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean the villains were awesome. Desmond as well was another excellent character of mine. Yeah, my favorite all-time TV show. I do have the box set of that. The rest I do have digital copies of, or they're on apps or streaming platforms. Actual Lost, I believe, I'm just running through it all. Yeah, Lost is the only one I actually have a kind of hard copy of, just in case. And I have given them out to people as well and stuff. So anyway, that was a longer than expected episode. Food for Thought by A.B. Young Rome. That is another episode. So I'm going to obviously load this to all streaming platforms. I'm going to add it onto YouTube as well. I'll add some thumbnails with it. But yeah. Feel free to like, subscribe, download, comment, give me feedback. So I will be uploading some other shows in the next, shortly as well, in terms of more top 10 lists. But yeah, any questions, any requests, let me know, and I'll be happy to deliver that for you. But thank you for listening, and hopefully see you soon. That's AB Young Rome, Food for Thought. Thank you.